What if I told you that American car companies once built vehicles so catastrophically bad, they literally handed the entire automotive market to Japan and Germany on a silver platter? We're talking about cars that didn't just break down. They caught fire, rusted while you watched, and had engines that self-destructed faster than a demolition derby. These weren't just minor flops. These were engineering disasters so legendary that millions of loyal American customers said never again and switched to foreign brands forever. Today, we're exposing the 10 most notorious automotive failures that destroyed America's car industry from the inside out. Number 10. Ford Pinto, 1971 to 1980. Let's start with the car that literally turned customers into human torches. The engineers knew it had a deadly flaw. In rear-end crashes, the fuel tank could rupture and turn your morning commute into a blazing inferno. The fix? An $11 part. But here's where it gets absolutely sick. Corporate executives ran the numbers and decided it was cheaper to pay wrongful death lawsuits than fix the problem. They calculated 180 deaths and 180 severe burns, then chose profits over people's lives. When internal memos leaked showing this cold-blooded cost-benefit analysis, American consumers were horrified. How do you trust a company that puts your family's safety up for sale? Millions didn't, and they started buying Japanese cars that wouldn't barbecue their children. Number 9. AMC Pacer, 1975 to 1980. Picture this automotive abomination. It was wider than a Cadillac but shorter than a Volkswagen Beetle. The Pacer looked like someone took a fishbowl, added wheels, and called it a car. But the real nightmare was living with this glass house on wheels. That massive windshield turned the interior into a solar oven during summer, literally cooking passengers alive. The air conditioning couldn't keep up with all that glass, so you'd arrive everywhere drenched in sweat. Then came the mechanical horrors. The steering was so heavy it felt like wrestling a truck. The handling was dangerously unpredictable, and the fuel economy was worse than most full-size trucks. AMC marketed it as the wide, small car, but customers saw it as the wide mistake that proved American designers had completely lost their minds. Number 8. Cadillac Cimarron, 1982 to 1988. This is the car that destroyed Cadillac's luxury reputation overnight. Imagine walking into a Cadillac showroom expecting handcrafted American luxury, and the salesman shows you a Chevrolet Cavalier with a fancy grille and leather seats for twice the price. That's exactly what the Cimarron was, and Cadillac thought customers were too stupid to notice. The 88-horsepower four-cylinder engine in a luxury car was an insult to anyone with a functioning brain. It took 13 seconds to reach 60 miles per hour, making it slower than most economy cars. The interior was pure plastic, fantastic with fake wood grain that fooled absolutely nobody. Customers who'd been buying Cadillacs for decades felt betrayed and humiliated. They didn't just stop buying Cadillacs. They started buying BMW and Mercedes to prove they hadn't lost their minds. Number 7. Chevrolet Chevette, 1976 to 1987. The Chevette was proof that American companies could build cars just as cheap and nasty as anyone else. They just charged more for the privilege. This econobox nightmare was slower than walking, noisier than a jackhammer, and about as reliable as a politician's promise. The 1.6-liter engine produced a pathetic 60 horsepower, making acceleration feel like watching paint dry. But speed wasn't the real problem. Staying alive was. The handling was so terrifying that highway on-ramps became death-defying adventures. The build quality was so poor that parts would literally fall off while driving. Door handles broke in your hands, windows wouldn't roll up, and the heating system was optional, even when it was supposed to work. While Honda was building the Civic with precision engineering, Chevrolet was teaching Americans that cheap and garbage were the same thing. Number 6. Oldsmobile diesel engines, 1978 to 1985. Here's how you destroy customer loyalty forever. Take your reliable gasoline engine, slap some diesel injection on it, and pretend you've created automotive magic. Oldsmobile's diesel experiment was an unmitigated disaster that turned thousands of customers into walking horror stories. These engines had a disturbing habit of eating themselves alive. Head gaskets would blow, sending coolant into the oil and oil into the coolant, creating a toxic soup that destroyed everything it touched. The timing chains would stretch and snap, turning your engine into expensive scrap metal. But the real kicker? When these diesels died, and they always died, the repair costs were higher than buying a new car. Customers who trusted Oldsmobile's advanced technology found themselves with $8,000 repair bills on $12,000 cars. The word spread like wildfire. American diesels were financial suicide, and Japanese gasoline engines never failed. Number 5. Ford Mustang II, 1974 to 1978. This is what happens when accountants design muscle cars. The Mustang II took everything that made the original Mustang legendary and threw it in the garbage. Based on the economy car Pinto platform, it was slower, smaller, and more expensive than the car it replaced. The performance engine was a wheezing V6 that couldn't outrun a shopping cart. But here's what really broke enthusiasts' hearts. Ford had the audacity to call this pathetic econobox a Mustang. It was like putting a Ferrari badge on a golf cart. The styling was pure 1970s cheese, with fake wood grain and plush velour that belonged in a disco, not a performance car. While European sports cars were getting faster and more sophisticated, Ford was teaching Americans that Mustang now meant slow, ugly, and embarrassing. Muscle car fans felt personally betrayed and started buying Datsun Z cars instead. Number 4. Plymouth Aspen Dodge Volare, 1976 to 1980. These automotive disasters became the most recalled cars in American history up to that point, and for good reason. They were literally trying to kill their owners. The list of defects reads like a horror movie script. Seat belts would detach during crashes, leaving passengers unprotected during the moment they needed safety most. Fuel lines would leak onto hot engine parts and catch fire, turning routine drives into potential explosions. Battery acid would eat through brake lines, meaning you could lose all stopping power without warning. The front subframe could actually separate from the body while driving, which is exactly as terrifying as it sounds. But wait, there's more. The electronic fuel systems would cause random stalling, so you'd be cruising down the highway when your engine would just quit. Owners lived in constant fear of what would break next, and most didn't wait to find out. They traded these death traps for reliable Japanese cars as fast as possible. Number 3. Chevrolet Citation, 1980 to 1985. The Citation started as America's great hope, a modern, fuel-efficient front-wheel drive car that could finally compete with Japanese imports. It sold 800,000 units in its first year, making it one of the biggest automotive success stories ever. Then owners actually tried to drive them, and the American dream turned into a recurring nightmare. The rear brakes had a charming habit of locking up without warning, sending cars into uncontrollable spins at highway speeds. Power steering racks would fail overnight, turning easy parking into arm wrestling matches with 1,000-pound steering wheels. The electronic fuel systems were so poorly designed that cars would stall at random moments, including while turning corners in traffic. But here's the truly infuriating part. General Motors fought safety regulators for years, refusing to admit their cars were defective even when people were getting hurt. Sales collapsed from 800,000 to 400,000 to 200,000 as word spread that Citations were unreliable, unsafe, and backed by a company that didn't care about customer safety.
Number 2. Cadillac V8 V6 V4 engine,
1981 to 1982. Cadillac engineers thought they were geniuses. They created an engine that could shut off half its cylinders to save fuel, then fire them back up when you needed power. In theory, it was brilliant. In reality, it was an absolute catastrophe that destroyed Cadillac's reputation for luxury and reliability. The computer system that controlled cylinder activation was primitive 1980s technology trying to manage split-second precision, and it failed spectacularly. The engine would randomly shut off cylinders while you were accelerating onto highways, leaving you stranded in traffic with 90 horsepower trying to move a 4,000-pound luxury car. Even worse, the system would malfunction and leave cylinders permanently shut off, turning your premium Cadillac into an expensive, unreliable, embarrassingly slow piece of junk. Owners who paid luxury prices for cutting-edge technology got experimental disasters that spent more time in repair shops than their driveways. The humiliation was complete. Wealthy Americans started buying Mercedes and BMW, proving that German engineering was worth the extra money. Number 1. Chevrolet Vega, 1971 to 1977. Here's the undisputed champion of automotive disasters, a car so catastrophically bad that it single-handedly gave the entire compact car market to Japanese manufacturers for the next 2 decades. The Vega looked absolutely gorgeous, like a miniature Camaro that promised affordable performance and reliable transportation. Instead, it delivered pure mechanical torture that turned loyal Chevrolet customers into Honda and Toyota evangelists forever. The aluminum engine block was an engineering nightmare. Without proper cylinder liners, any overheating would permanently destroy the engine, turning your car into a smoke-belching oil burner. And overheating was guaranteed because Chevrolet installed a radiator the size of a dinner plate that couldn't cool a lawnmower, let alone a car engine. But the real horror show was the rust. These cars didn't just rust, they dissolved before your eyes like they were made of brown sugar. The anti-corrosion process was so poorly designed that huge sections of the body were never treated, meaning Vega owners watched their brand new cars literally fall apart in their driveways. The combination of self-destructing engines and disappearing bodies was so traumatic that it convinced millions of Americans that Detroit had forgotten how to build reliable cars. These 10 automotive disasters weren't just flops, they were wake-up calls. Each one shattered trust, drove buyers to foreign brands, and left a stain on American car making that still lingers. Most of these failures were preventable, caused by cutting corners and chasing profits over quality. And the lesson? In this industry, reputation is everything. Hard to build, easy to lose, and nearly impossible to win back once it's gone.